And now, it's Ultimate Combat Radio with your host, Mike Stidham on 1280 and 97.5. The Zone, brought to you by Aztec Highway, WDFA.
All right, take it.
Welcome to Ultimate Combat Radio. Mike Stidham here talking a little mixed martial arts, man. It is exciting to be in the studio. We've got a lot of energy in here, got a lot of tough guys in here, and one beautiful babe, Robertina, in here. Robertina, how are you doing, young lady?
I am so good. How are you doing?
Man, I'm good. It's good to see a smile on your face, Robertina.
I'm so happy.
Doesn't happen very often.
And she drug along her other half, Joe. Joe, how you doing, my man?
I'm good. How you doing, Mike?
Well, I've been better. I ain't gonna lie. Feeling pretty good right now, though. But and also the Kiser, of course. Kiser, what's going on?
What's up, man? I'm great.
Well, that's good. All right, now we've got some swag to give away, and I'm going to give it away to whoever calls and says something super smart. Now, I know
good
we
luck
don't,
with that.
And listen, the bar is low around here, so just call in and say something. We got swag for a very Harold and Kumar Christmas.
All right.
I would be all over that.
That's going to be an Academy Award winner. You guys watch out for that.
We're going to have a busy line.
Yeah, so Robertina, how would they go about calling and joining the program?
They can call us at 470-570-670-1280, or they can text us. I don't know if you're giving out to texters, but text us anyway. 53318. Text in zone, and then whatever you have to say. Or Facebook.com/Ultimate Combat Radio.
Awesome. All right, now this segment is brought to you by Ultimate Combat Training Center and Mushin Self-Defense. Now, at the Ultimate Combat Training Center, we got a big special going on out there. Free. How do you beat that? It's free.
Can't compete with that.
We're giving free classes away for a week. Now, there's kind of some, you got to go kind of jump through a hoop to get there. Out in Sandy and Draper, the Czech City locations have free class vouchers. So you're going to stop into Czech City and, drop off some of your bling bling while you're there. They buy gold and then pick up a free voucher to come in and take MMA, boxing, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, whatever you want to do, and it's all for free.
So do people get to pick one of those classes to take, or can they do as much as they want for a week?
They get to come for the whole week and do whatever the heck they want to do. So, Brandon, I'm going to suggest to you do the same.
Well, I think I'm going to have to just to stay competitive.
You got to. So now we'll figure out where they can go get their vouchers. Is there somewhere you have in mind? Maybe they could get some out there.
Well, I will call Yamasaki right after the show.
Let's clear this with Yamasaki first.
How about you go to the front desk at Mushin and just say, Brandon said.
Well, that will work.
And that'll just get Brandon in trouble with Brian, which that's all right. We can live with that, right?
Yeah, I can live with that. That's nothing new.
All right. This week's poll question is who it would be on your Utah MMA Mt. Rushmore. Now, we did this last week for MMA as a whole, and we had some really good answers. And Brandon, I think, won because he's such a huge fan.
Spent hours figuring it out.
He's obsessed with this sport, and so he won. But we're going to talk about Utah MMA now for just a moment, and I have my picks, and I'm going to throw them out there, and then if you want to call and refute them, or you want to call and say you've got your own ideas. First of all, Lonnie Foster, and a lot of you guys, it's really kind of funny. A lot of the new guys that have just come around, they don't even know who Lonnie Foster is. Lonnie Foster, he unfortunately passed away, I believe about a year ago, maybe a little more. But he was the longtime referee of the Ultimate Combat. But prior to that, Lonnie Foster, he actually had the idea to put on this mixed martial arts tournament. We called it Ultimate Fighting back then. It was an Ultimate Fighting tournament back in 1994. And he came to me, and he wanted to do a tournament, and we thought, man, this is going to be awesome. Because I was a Walt Bayless guy. He was a Pedro Sauer guy. I go, you go back to Pedro's and see if you can get some guys, and I'll go back to Walt's and see if we can get some guys. And nobody wanted to do it. None of the trained guys would do it. And so Lonnie kind of, fell off the idea. But ultimately, we started doing some – we kind of did a little fight club thing. What we did, we'd go out to the bars, we'd hand out flyers, and we'd say – anybody that wants to fight after the bars close down, come down to Ultimate Combat Training Center at 2 o'clock. We're going to be doing fights. And so
I didn't even know that piece of history.
People would do it. So we came out and we did it 2 or 3 times. And then like the 4th time we got raided by the cops. Like as soon as we started the fights, a bunch of badges flew up in the air and they said, police, we're shutting this thing down. And I said, well, what are you shutting us down for? We're not doing anything illegal. Everybody here is of age. Nobody's drinking. We're just here fighting in a controlled area.
In a fight gym.
In a fight gym. And I had to go and pull my business license and showed them that we did that. In fact, when I got my business license, I said I wanted to put fights on. And so they had to leave, but they forgot to give me my money back that I had, we charged entry for people to come in, and they kept my money. but we did that, and then after we stopped doing those because the county, they said, look, man, we don't want you doing that. We just decided we kept getting phone calls about people wanting to fight. And so we said, let's put a fight show on in a nightclub, and that's what we did. We ultimately went and did a fight show in a nightclub, and that's how it all started. And when we did this, Lonnie Foster was a big piece of the puzzle because we wanted to keep it fair. And the Pedro guys and the Walt Bayless guys, you got to know, back then, they were like the Crips and the Bloods. They hated each other. And so Lonnie was our referee for that very reason. We wanted the opposition to have their referee be the referee for us. And, we were putting the fights on. So that's how it all started. And Lonnie Foster was a key part in getting this thing started. My second pick is Pedro Sauer. And now Pedro Sauer, if you don't know, there's another kind of involved with Lonnie's story. Pedro Sauer was involved in the very first MMA, again, ultimate fight that ever took place in the state of Utah. I was kickboxing back then, and I was on a radio show, and I was talking about, I'm going to leave to go to fight in this kickboxing match. And after I left the studio, somebody called into the radio station and said, we do jiu-jitsu, we will kick any kickboxer, we beat them very easily, And so the radio disc jockey invited them to come on the air and talk to them, to the next day. So they came in, and ironically enough, I had a friend of mine that was also in studio. He was Mr. Utah. He was a bodybuilder. And he was sitting there listening to these jiu-jitsu guys kind of talk smack about me. And when they went to break, he says, I don't really appreciate you talking bad about Mike. He's not even here to defend himself. We take somebody like you and we beat you too. And this guy is 250, and the guy that was talking was about 150. And so they decided to have this fight. As it turns out, it was Pedro Sauer, and Kazika was the one running his mouth. Kazika Munoz Pedro was very humble about it, but Kazika, he was like a little bug. He kept talking a bunch of smack. Well, they ended up having a fight in my gym. I think it was a week later. I come back from my fight, and my mother had died, so I was kind of out of the loop for a little bit. I show up to my gym one day, and there's hundreds of people there. And there was this fight. And anyway, Pedro Sauer ended up, it's kind of famous that this 150-pounder defeated this 250-pound bodybuilder with an arm bar. And so you got to give him credit. And then not only that, just what he's done and all the people that have been involved in the sport after that. Pedro Sauer is my second selection. I think you'd agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Then third, Josh Berkman. I think he was the first guy to really make it, in this sport. And Josh was a guy that he thought he was better than he was before he got good. And we even talked about him. He was on the show not too long ago. Josh was. We were in Vegas one time, and we met some girls, and Josh Berkman was telling these girls he was this UFC fighter. We had this friend that was with us. He played college basketball, and he was telling these girls that he played in the NBA, and I was just an old fat guy, and I didn't have anything cool to tell the girls. Well, ultimately, this guy did play in the NBA, and Josh Berkman did end up fighting in the UFC, so his mouth kind of talked him in. He wrote checks, and then he cashed them. So I give Josh a lot of credit, man. He was just a really good athlete that ended up being a pretty good fighter. So, and then my final pick was me. That's all we're going to say about that.
Hey, I'm glad you picked you.
I'm not gonna lie.
I think a lot of people would agree with that.
And if they disagree, they're wrong.
They'll punch him in the face.
No, I got no ill will if they don't agree with that. But, I think...
is it hard to choose between Walt Bayless and Pedro Sauer, considering they both...
No, because Pedro did fight. Pedro took the fight. He fought that guy first, and, I think he was that big of a pioneer. And, I kind of battled with that, but I really ultimately had to say, Pedro did actually step up to the plate and fight that 250-pounder. This is, again, back when the UFC was just getting started. So, it was back when this whole sport was brand new and nobody even knew what the heck it was. In fact, Lance Batcher didn't know he was in an armbar. That's how unfamiliar most people were with the sport. So I give Pedro Sauer for stepping up and doing it.
I remember watching that fight on VHS in Jared Bringhurst's basement shortly after it happened. It
was amazing because that was another situation where Lonnie Foster stopped the fight when the armbar went on. He didn't wait for Lance to tap or anything like that, and I got mad. I stepped in. I said, because before this all went down, I said, Lonnie, we got a little what do you call it, liability thing going on here. I've got 300 people in my gym, and my gym was really small back then. I said, you've got to stop it if it goes near the crowd or anything like that. No, we don't stop anything unless he's tapped out or he's unconscious. I said, okay, well, Lonnie stopped it fast, and afterward he goes, well, he was going to get his arm broken. I said, well, that's a matter of opinion,
Those are very big arms to break.
They were very big arms, and so it was a little bit controversial. And when that happened, that Kazika guy tears off his gi and challenges me to a fight, and then so Mark Schultz was there, and Walt Bayless was there, and it could have gotten really ugly. And there was another time where the cops said, all right, we're stopping. Cops were there, obviously. It was all over the radio, so... I think I got saved by the cops that night because there were probably 300 Pedro Sauer guys there and about 6 Walt Bayless guys there, including Walt Bayless. So it was not a good situation for me, and it wouldn't have turned out very pretty for me, I don't think. All right, Badass of the Week. This week, and you'd have to go to our Facebook page, and it really doesn't translate to radio very well, but there was a guy that he was a bodybuilder, and he lost his leg to cancer, and then you look at this guy, and he's perfect symmetry, top and bottom, just huge, except for this one artificial limb. And I just was so impressed with this guy. He's very inspirational to me when you saw the picture, and you have to go check that out. I know, Joe, you lift a little bit of weight.
Yeah, all the time. No, yeah, it's awesome to see that guy. He really does. If you didn't see that metal leg, you think he was just perfect, like an Arnold Schwarzenegger back in the day.
Yeah. So I mean, it was very impressive. Now, speaking of Badass of the Week, 2 weeks ago there was a guy that we mentioned on the show here that had won Badass of the Week because he went and won the FILA World Grappling Championship. And he's a local guy. He's a guy that has kind of been a mentor for me in the grappling game. And you're never going to meet a nicer guy, a more congenial guy, a guy that's to meet him, you're going, first of all, when you look at him, you know he's tough. But when you talk to him, you're like, he doesn't have that killer world champion kind of sense, but he did. He went and won the whole thing. And we happen to have him in studio tonight right now. Brandon Reese, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Mike.
Well, good. We're going to really get into a good conversation and talk about the championship and that whole thing. But I want to invite you and our other in-studio guest, local badass here as well, Kyle Herrera is in studio. Kyle, how you doing?
Doing great, Mike. Thanks.
Okay, I'm going to have these two sharing a microphone. I want to invite you to kind of join in on the conversation. In fact, as we go along, we're going to be talking about the Utah MMA Mount Rushmore, if you will. And I'd like to get your guys' opinion. And you really have to consider this. As we were starting to kind of think about who was on my Mount Rushmore, I started thinking about who are some of the more notable people that have fought in the show or fought here in Utah. And Brandon's one of them. Brandon fought in the show, and Brandon now is a world champion. You've got to kind of throw that up there that he's a guy that's really accomplished something after having fought in the show. And then obviously Rico Rodriguez fought in the show. And, Frank Shamrock. So we've had some notable guys in the show. Obviously, you don't put them on the Mount Rushmore, but you think it's pretty cool. We've had some really big names fight here in Utah. In fact, Tim Sylvia fought in Utah. I don't think a lot of people know that. He fought back in the day. So a lot of tough guys. Let's see. Next week, we're going to have the poll question is going to be, and I want you guys to gear up for this. Who's got the best team out there? And you talk about Greg Jackson. You talk about Randy Couture. There are a lot of really good teams out there. So I'm going to give you guys your homework assignment to research and see, to let us know who you think has the best fight team out there. We're going to be talking to Brandon Reese, FILA World Grappling Champion, when we come back.